very pleased this morning to be welcoming all of you to our candidates forum here at Milford High School. This is only for our seniors, so if you're not a senior and you're not here with your teacher, I'd like you to please go back to class, but if you're not a senior and your teacher brought you down, that's okay. So what we're going to do this morning is we're going to give all of you an opportunity to hear from the candidates who are running in the upcoming local election for both Selectmen and School Committee. I want to thank the members of our National Honor Society who helped to run a voter registration drive last week. And I'd like to see by a quick show of hands, how many of you are presently registered to vote and eligible to vote? Excellent, thank you. Could you raise your hand if you're not presently registered to vote? So all of you who are not registered to vote right now, I want to encourage you, even though you may not be eligible to vote in this upcoming election, you have the opportunity to influence voters who are eligible to vote. That includes your parents, family members, neighbors. As I think you're going to hear this morning, I think all of you have a stake in the outcome of these elections. I know that when I was a senior in high school, I was thinking, look, you know, I'm graduating from Milford High School, I'm out of here, I'm going to college, like, I don't really have a stake in what's going on in my town. That was really short-sighted because my parents continued to live here and my brother was still in high school. And so for me to think that like I have a stake in what's going on simply because I'm going off to college is a very short-sighted perspective. And I want to encourage you not to sort of make the same mistake that I did when I was your age. Before I turn it over to our candidates this morning, I want to share with you a couple numbers and ask you to reflect on them. Some of you may know that I think it was either last week or 2 weeks ago, we had an election here in the town of Milford. It was a referendum to decide on whether or not we were going to ban cannabis shops in Milford. And so, as you probably know, that the ban was put in place, so there will not be any licensed cannabis shops in Milford. And that decision was made by 2,629 voters. So 2,629 voters made that decision for the town of Milford. There's about 28,000 residents in Milford, so it's about 9% of the population of Milford decided to come out and vote, and they made a decision that affects 100% of the population of Milford. We have about 18,000 registered voters, so it's about 14% of registered voters, people who could have come out and voted, actually did. So in politics, the people who show up are the people who get a say. And all of us who don't show up, we're going to be at the whim of those who do. And I would encourage you to show up and vote, and I would encourage you to get involved in sort of influencing voters, not only because you have a stake in it, but because it's an opportunity for you to make a real impact in your community. And lastly, I think this is also important as well to at least mention, is I really want to encourage you to get involved, because I think it's the patriotic thing to do. We're very, very fortunate to live in a unique country that has a great history of democracy. And for our democracy to be great, we need the citizens to participate, the citizens to vote, and for the citizens to be informed. And so I want to thank our candidates this morning, who are all professional people. They're running for volunteer offices in which they're going to give an enormous amount of their time and not get paid. They're giving up hours this morning from their job so they can be here and speak directly to you. I want to thank them for being not only running for office, but coming to Milford High School this morning and speaking to our youngest generation of voters. I know that they all understand the importance of you participating, and they're showing that by being here this morning. So before we even start, if you could please join me by thanking all of our candidates for being here this morning. So with that, we're going to get to it. So we have two different contested races on the ballot, major contested races on the ballot in our local election. First up is Selectmen, and the two gentlemen up here on stage are running for one Selectman seat. We have Mr. Will Kincaid, who is a sitting Selectman, and the challenger, Mr. John Erickson, who's presently on School Committee, but is running to serve as Selectman. I'm going to give each of these gentlemen an opportunity to make an opening statement. There we go. Give him a hand. Thank you. I'm going to give each of these gentlemen 2 minutes to make an opening statement, and then we're going to have an opportunity for you to ask questions to them, and each of them will have a chance to respond. And then after the selectmen have had a chance to respond to a few questions, we're going to let them get on to their days, and our candidates for School Committee are going to come on up and they're going to join us. I'm going to come down with the mic so I can moderate and give folks an opportunity to ask questions. As I'm walking down, Mr. Kincaid, let me give you an opportunity to speak first, and Mr. Erickson will give you an opportunity to speak second.
Thank you, Mr. Otland, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming out. This is pretty exciting. I've been involved in local politics in Milford since I was 18 years old when I first became a town meeting member, and I don't ever remember having the opportunity to come and talk to present seniors at Milford High School. So thank you guys for taking time out of your day. Like I said, my name is Will Kincaid. I'm the current chairman of the Board of Selectmen in Milford. I served 9 years on the school committee, 2 years as a finance committee member, 4 years as a housing authority commissioner here in Milford, and many, many years as a town meeting member. This is a great town. Those of us who have lived here, live here now, and grown up here know what Milford has to offer. So you'll hear, again, I've said this at every debate, John and I have known each other for many years, and this is exactly what local government looks like. Grow up together, we know each other's families, and now we're presenting two different paths to move forward, and hopefully, especially those who are registered to vote, are going to have a say in whether or not I keep my seat or if John replaces me on the board. So I look forward to any of your questions. You can get me on Facebook. My number is in the, well, I can't say the phone book anymore, but it is listed. You can find me, and I'll be glad to meet or answer any questions even after we're done here. But thank you very much for being here.
Likewise, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out here this morning. Thank you, Mr. Otland. Thank you, Brian, for helping to organize this event. So my name is John Erickson. I'm a candidate for Selectmen. A little history about myself. Graduate of Milford High School, and then later on WPI. And subsequently, I went on to work in the family business for many years. And then more recently, about 15 years ago, I started working for the town of Milford. I worked part-time as the building inspector at Town Hall, and then later took a full-time employment as a building commissioner. It's this experience that gave me much of the insight that I have about town local government. And through this process, I developed a stronger interest, and 3 years ago, I was fortunate to be elected to the Milford School Committee. I ran for the school committee because I saw problems that needed to be addressed, and I'm very proud of what our committee has done in the past 3 years. We've solved a number of issues, and we move forward to trying to improve the district each and every day. So, again, I'm happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to answering the questions that you have.
Thank you, gentlemen. Before we open up to questions from our students, can I ask each of you to just take a quick moment to identify either the one or two greatest challenges that you see facing Milford in the upcoming 3 years? Mr. Kincaid, could you start? And then Mr. Erickson.
Sure. I think, first of all, something that Milford's in a great financial position and an envy of a lot of towns around us when we talk about our finances. But again, that wasn't done overnight, and certainly that responsibility and a lot of decisions that were made to put away the money that we have and to not spend as much money as we're legally able to. But that can change relatively quickly. So I think, if nothing else, to keep an eye and a tight rein on our finances, because that makes things which, from this point, doesn't seem the most exciting, but it helps with our borrowing. We built the new Woodland School, we did other capital improvements, whether it was the youth center or the senior center. We got great bonding rates and things like that because of the amount of money that we have set aside. So that responsibility, that can change overnight, and we just have to keep our eyes on that. I think something that I've been, I guess, right smack dab in the middle of the last 3 years is a lot of people over the last few years, and when I first ran 3 years ago for the board, I heard a lot of it from residents. It was the image of our community. And when people talked about that, they talked about whether it was blighted buildings or litter on the ground. So sometimes they're very simple things, but those are the things that, especially for the generation, above you guys that may have grown up here and have seen, why something might be acceptable now but wasn't acceptable a few years back. So sometimes the phone calls that I get are even about simple little things like that. Well, I was on Lower Water Street and I saw a whole bunch of trash bags outside of a house and they were ripped, and can we get someone down there? And it's just a matter in town government. There's a whole lot of different fiefdoms where there's different boards and commissions that have responsibility for things. And that's where a lot of the relationships come into play, because whether you call the highway department or the parks department, you let them know that they don't work for me, but this is a complaint I got, and luckily for all of us, they get right down there and they do their due diligence and their job. And those are the things, image related, that I think are going to continue to be challenges, because not everyone lives the way their neighbors do, or cut the lawn as many times as they do, and we can't legislate that. But what we can do is just hope to keep doing the best we can, so that that simple message spreads, and and our image is protected.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Kincaid. So, Mr. Erickson, Mr. Kincaid saying two major challenges. One is managing our finances effectively. Two is addressing citizens' concerns about the image of the community. What would you identify as the top one or two concerns facing Milford in the coming years?
Thank you. Well, the biggest concern I have is proper planning for our future. This has been a topic I've harped on during this campaign, and I go back and I refer to our comprehensive plan that was developed in 2002 and adopted in 2003. For some of us, that seems like it wasn't that long ago, but when I look at the faces in this room, you guys were toddlers at that time. And what that goal was to shape Milford for how the residents wanted to improve and change our town and what would be in place today. And many of those goals failed. They weren't embraced by our leadership. Some of them were accomplished, but many of the concerns that we have today, blighted properties, revitalizing downtown, preserving our open space, economic development, were concerns back in 2002, and they remain concerns today. I think we need to take a larger view, a look down from above, and see where we want this community to go. We need to redevelop our comprehensive plan. We need to shape Milford for where it's going in the future. Any of the problems that Will just mentioned are certainly my concern, but I want to be proactive with our town and our community and where we're heading, rather than reactive. Any of these problems that again Will just mentioned are certainly a concern, but my concern is the preparation for our future, shaping our community.
Thank you, Mr. Erickson. Okay, let me open up to our students now. Does anyone have a question that they'd like to put to our candidates for Selectmen?
Is there any particular reason why you think that we, as high school seniors who will be leaving the school very soon, some of us forever, why we should vote for either one of you?
Good, that's a great question, and I think if I went back 24 years to your age and we're sitting with you, I'd probably have the same question. If you're going to vote, which I hope you do, I would just say that there's enough information and through forums and certainly in the press on things that are important to me, things that are important to John. I think really you look at each candidate, you look at the paths, and you make that decision on your own. I mean, I think that, I have a child now, certainly much younger than you folks. He's 9 years old that I'm raising, and I'm raising in this town. So I'm hoping that a lot of things that you folks would like to see on a positive level, I would agree with too, and want to see, my son experience, especially as he gets through and comes to Milford High School. I'm a former teacher. I taught for 3 years. I taught 8th grade. I always joke that even though that was some time ago, I learned more from my 8th graders than I think they actually learned from me in my English language arts class. And you guys have a lot to offer, especially now in this world, in the current environment we're in. You're paying attention, you're engaged, and people got to give you guys the credit that you deserve, because you're a much more educated group of 18-year-olds than I think generations before you. And I think in some cases you're growing up a lot, probably much faster than I would like you to, but that's the world we live in. So, but whatever decision you make, good luck.
Thank you. That's absolutely a great question, and I think it's a very simple answer. I think you should vote for one of us. If you're a registered voter, if you live in this community, and if you care about this community. If you move on from Milford High School and move away and never come back, you have friends and family members here that will be affected by the outcome of this election. Possibly not drastically. Will and I, we share a number of the same goals of the town of Milford, but we definitely have drastically different approaches to managing town government and what we think will be effective means to get to our goals.
Do we have another question from our students?
Very good. We can come on back to you.
I have a question. So, I heard that like the roads were really bad, and I heard there was gonna be a one-way. Is that like true or not?
That's also a great question. I can honestly tell you that I have not heard that at all. I do think our roads are pretty good, considering the weather and everything. I think our highway department does a great job. But as for Diller Street, I'll definitely check on that, but it certainly hasn't been presented before the current board.
Yeah, if I can add to that, you know, roads deteriorate and they're going to constantly need improvement, but I do think our highway department does as good a job as they can given their means. As far as Diller Street, I've never even heard the concept that that would become a one-way street. I don't know what that effect would be. Once people leave, they can't come back. Yes. But, you know, that is a good point. Traffic is a big concern, as everyone in this town knows. And when I refer back to my opening remarks or subsequent remarks about our comprehensive plan, there was a plan in place 15 years ago to create an alternate route through Milford, which would have bypassed a lot of the downtown traffic and taken a different avenue off of 109. And ultimately coming out to South Main Street. And these are the ideas that would have effects today. They would have been big tasks to accomplish, and that's probably why they weren't embraced. But these are the things we need to look at in the future and try and accomplish some of these goals.
Thank you, gentlemen. Do we have any other questions from our students at this time?
There's a lot of talk about, there's a lot of talk about revitalizing downtown. We haven't really grown up with a really lively downtown, so why do you think it's important to revitalize?
Sure. Well, to be honest with you, I kind of had the same experience. You know, when I was much younger, that's when everyone was leaving and abandoning downtown to go to the Natick Mall and Framingham and do their shopping elsewhere. And now what we're seeing, and we've been in close communication with the towns of Hudson and the city of Marlborough, who've done a really great job of revitalizing their downtown. And what they explained to us, and through the Downtown Revitalization Committee that we formed, was that with Amazon and other online purchasing, people are looking to come back into their towns to shop because they're not necessarily having to make the trips to Boston, to Natick, to Framingham to get the goods and products that they want. And something else that's been very, I guess, a strong point in trying to bring your downtown back is foot traffic. So, you know, whether we start allowing people, and that conversation is going to be coming up over the next couple of months, living and having mixed use of downtown. Does that mean I'm out of time? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So again, this is something that was addressed in that comprehensive plan that I keep harping on. Revitalizing downtown was a focus 15 years ago, and it's still a focus today. You know, some of the things that they were trying to accomplish with this plan was to increase retail downtown. You know, there's only, you know, professional space, dentist offices, real estate offices. That doesn't encourage foot traffic that will invigorate downtown, and those are some of the measures that the plan was trying to take. When I look at this new Downtown Revitalization Committee, that was formed out of necessity from local business owners because the town hadn't responded to the needs for so many years. I'm glad to see that committee is in place. I'm glad to see the work that's being done. But again, this is a reactive approach instead of a proactive approach, and it's short-sighted. It has been short-sighted, and I look to change that.
Time for one more question for our selectmen. We have another student like to pose a question.
So I have a question about safety when the power line or the power went out on 140 and the traffic lights went out, and I didn't know if there was like a backup, like what you do when they go out and stuff, or if there was like a special thing to keep us safe.
No, great question. Actually, we're on 140 where I was coming down through Highland Street, heading over to where Honeydew is in the Rite Aid. That's where I noticed I ended up making a phone call to the town administrator and asking a very similar question, because I'd never seen where that many different intersections throughout town were actually out, and there were a couple of accidents. Unfortunately, the response time, because of the wind and the weather, got pushed back big time by the power companies because they weren't going to come out, get on ladders and everything else with any winds above, I think it was sustained above 35 miles an hour. So I learned a lot in this last storm, things I never had to deal with, but that was pretty much why they were out as long as they were. But I was also surprised there isn't a backup or anything for that, so it was just getting police out there, getting them at the intersections in a timely manner and actually guiding cars through.
Yeah, as well said, unfortunately, when the power goes out, there is no backup that's available to make the traffic lights work. And typically, we'd use our public safety officers to come out and direct traffic, but given the magnitude of the storm and all the other incidents that were going on, it just wasn't feasible to put them at every intersection. But this storm, and there's been several recently, has brought a few concerns that I have to light, and some concerns I've heard from people in this community. I was fortunate not to lose power, but many people did, and we haven't been proactive in establishing warming centers, maybe opening the senior center for people who have lost power and their heat isn't working for long enough where the houses are very cold.
So at this stage, I want to be sensitive to the fact that these gentlemen have professional obligations to go to. We have school committee members who are eager to speak to you. So please join me in thanking Mr. Erickson and Mr. Compute for being here tonight. All right, everyone, thank you. We're going to sort of restart here with our school committee candidates. If I can please ask for your attention. Thank you. So for the upcoming school committee election, we have 7 different candidates who are all going to introduce themselves to you momentarily. They're running for 3 seats. The top 3 vote getters will win one of these seats, right? So we don't have sort of, no 2 people are competing against one another for one particular seat, but it's an open race where all 7 candidates are competing against one another for 3 seats. I will say that this is an especially competitive school committee election. And I think we're very, very fortunate here in Milford to have this much interest by local citizens in serving our schools and trying to play a part in making our schools the best they can possibly be. So we're just going to start with Mr. Visconti and work down the line. Each candidate will have a minute and a half to introduce themselves, and then we'll take some questions from the audience.
Good morning, everybody. I can see all the disappointed faces out there because you're missing your first period favorite class just to be here and listen to us. Is it first period? I think it's first period. My name is Mike Visconti. I am running for one of the 3 seats on the school committee. I can tell you that I will work very hard. I will be the hardest worker to ensure that all of you and all of the students that follow you will leave here with a quality education. I am available at all times to listen to what anybody has to say, including all of the students. I will work with the principal to somehow set up an appointment date where each of you can come and talk to me in maybe an office that the principal can provide, and voice any concerns or comments that you might have without any fear of repercussion. I can be reached on a landline, on a cell phone. I've been on Twitter for several years, so you can feel free to tweet me at any time. And what I'd like you to do is when you go home tonight and sit around the dinner table, I don't know, do people still sit around the dinner table? When you do, please tell your parents that you had the opportunity to meet the most qualified candidate for the school committee. That is Mike Visconti. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Laura Ciarmacoli and Jemmy. My husband and I have 3 children, ages 7, 5, and 2. I'm a lifelong Milford resident, also a graduate of Milford High School. I graduated in 1999. I'm a graduate of College of the Holy Cross in Northeastern University, where I earned my master's in accounting and also my MBA. I worked in public accounting for 5 years at Ernst & Young before making a career change to become a teacher. I have been a business teacher at Hopedale Junior Senior High School for the last 9 years. I want to use my experience as a teacher, a parent, and a businesswoman to have a positive impact on our educational system. I'm looking forward to taking the next step, having already participated on PTO boards and school councils at Shining Star here at the high school and also at Brookside. I have a very solid understanding of the issues facing you and the rest of the student body. I can bring several different perspectives to the table. I interact daily with teachers, students, administrators, parents, and local businesses. As a resident and a taxpayer, I want you to be competitive in today's world. I believe in public education, and I want to ensure that all of you at every single level, pre-K through 12, are challenged to reach your full potential and beyond. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to serve you and the residents of Milford. I will not take this job lightly. I will work hard for every single one of you. My record demonstrates that I am dedicated and I work well in a collaborative environment. I respectfully ask for your vote on April 3rd. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Glenn Wyke and I'm running for school committee. Today I want to talk about civics education. I know that a lot of you are registered to vote and a lot of you are not, and I'd like to tell you why you should register to vote, and you should vote not just this fall, but also in the local election. This fall there's going to be a ballot measure that will directly affect you, and I want you to know about this. There's something called the Income Tax for Education and Transportation Amendment. The goal, at least the stated goal, is to lower tuition on state colleges. Yeah. But you should also know that there is another ballot measure, sales tax decrease and tax-free weekend initiative. Now, under normal circumstances, I would advocate for this. I don't like the sales tax. However, the revenue that we would get from the Income Tax for Education and Transportation Amendment would be essentially wiped out if the other one passes. So you should know that we need a yes on the first and a no on the latter. Democracy is about advocating for issues that you care about. It's not just about team red and team blue. It's not a spectator sport. I ask you to be more involved. Thank you.
Hi everyone, good morning. My name is Sarah Howe and I'm running for school committee. Participation in our community is one of the things that makes Milford a great town. And it's my passion for the community that makes me a great candidate. I believe schools are the heart of our community, and it's my wish to serve the town in this capacity to ensure our schools are the best they can be for all of Milford. My experience in government started in high school. I ran for student government for 3 years as my class secretary, and it continued in college. So, you know, and beyond, actually, in a lot of different ways. So my recommendation is to participate early and often, and you too could be sitting here. So as a 9-year resident of Milford with 3 young children who currently attend or will be attending Milford Public Schools, I feel the schools have a lot to offer. And my 17 years of human resources experience with deep expertise in employee engagement makes me realize how important engagement is to the success in the workplace, but not just in the workplace. It's even more critical that students are engaged and participating in their academics, participating in their student government, participating in their extracurriculars to foster a love of learning and lifelong growth and opportunity. You bring your whole self to school, your confidence, your anxieties, your interests, and it's my desire to find ways to educate the whole self, to support your development academically, as well as support the development of skills that are critical in life. Skills like resilience, time management, communication, empathy, and responsibility. So thank you very much. I ask for your vote on April 3rd.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to join us this morning. My name is Megan Hornberger, and I am also a candidate for school committee. Like you, I attended this very high school and sat in those very seats. It's funny because sometimes it feels like that was just a few short years ago that I sat on the stage for senior night. So many great memories and so many great friendships. In reality, it's been 23 years since I was a student here. Interestingly, it looks pretty much the same. But in reality, times have changed. In those 20+ years, I've gone to college, graduate school, experienced working for 4 incredible companies and 1 not so incredible, and had the opportunity to travel the world, 13 countries and counting. Sometimes when I give my resume, I cannot believe that it's my own. The same goes for my personal life story. In college, I met and married an incredible person, and we were the best of friends and life partners. We have 1 son, Robbie, together, who's now in 5th grade at Woodland. A day after we brought Robbie home from the hospital, my husband tragically and unexpectedly passed away. In the days and months that followed, I was pretty certain that I would never smile again. You don't know what life will send your way. I didn't know in high school, and I certainly didn't know in college. Life is a choice. How will you spend today? My advice, be positive, be kind, and be productive. So much of life is how you choose to respond to it. It's a choice. Look at the incredible social change we're seeing in Florida. You're powerful. Your voice is powerful, and your vote is powerful. I'm running for school committee this April because I believe I can make a difference. And shame on me if I don't stand up and try. I encourage you to get up and vote on April 3rd, and I respectfully ask you cast 1 vote for Megan Hornberger.
Good morning, class of 2018. My name is Tarek Miranda, and I graduated from MHS in 2014. I was sitting where you were just a few years ago. I'm running for school committee because, just like you, I've been through the school system and I see the problems, and now that I'm outside and see them from the different perspective, I know that we need to fix them so that I can help give every single student a quality education they deserve in the school system. I'm here to help set the school system on its way to success and make sure every single student can attain success in their life. And that's why I'm running to be on the school committee.
Thank you. I also want to note that we have 1 candidate for school committee, Mr. Christopher Wilson, who is not able to join us this morning, but he is the 7th candidate who will appear on the ballot in the election. To our candidates, before we open it up to our students for questions, maybe we'll start with Mr. Miranda and work back down to Mr. Visconti. And I'm going to ask you to be very brief so we have time for our students to ask questions, and there's many of you. Could you please identify either 1 or 2 challenges that you see as the greatest challenges facing the Milford Public Schools in the upcoming 3 years?
2 challenges would be, the first would be the infrastructure. In many of the schools, it's falling apart. And the second would be a long-term strategic plan that's not put in place to set us on the path.
Thanks. 2 for me, I guess. 1 would be serving a diverse population. Milford is a diverse town, which I personally believe is an asset, but it's a challenge to serve all the needs of that population with a limited budget. And secondly, certainly is a long-term capital plan that includes infrastructure improvements. So hopefully maybe this auditorium isn't looking the same in another 20 years.
Thank you. I agree. Supporting the needs of our students is probably the #1 critical thing that we need to be doing. And continuing to try and paint a more optimistic picture of this town. This is a great school. You guys are great students. We have opportunities abound to participate in our community. And we need to be telling ourselves and others that same story.
I think the big issue we have right now is school choice. We have a lot of parents who are taking their kids outside of our school system, and I think it's largely a perception problem. And we do have to advocate on behalf of our schools. We need to inform parents before they move their kids out of our school system of the programs that are going on here and the great education that kids can get here. So I think that's first and foremost the thing we need to solve in the short term.
So I also agree with Glenn. I think we do need to work on our school choice numbers, making sure that we're keeping students in the district and that we're attracting students to stay here in Milford. I think that's really important, and it is somewhat of a perception issue, and I think we also need to be offering programs that our students and our families want to come and stay in Milford. For example, enrichment at the elementary level, I think can help with that. In addition, I'd like us to increase our social and emotional learning to make sure that all of our students are prepared and are ready to learn in the classroom each and every day. So that means educating the whole child and making sure that you guys are supported and ready to learn. In addition, I would like us, oh, actually that was 2.
Yes, all of those issues that the previous speakers brought up are important. But I can tell you this, I am the most qualified to tackle those problems. I will see to it. I have planned and developed numerous preventive maintenance plans, and I will look into the preventive maintenance plan that we have in the school system and make sure that it is implemented. School choice, well, all of you are here, so there must be something that attracted you to the Milford school system. We will find out what it is that attracted you to this system, key on that, so that we have more students from other towns coming to Milford as opposed to students leaving Milford. I am the best qualified to tackle those issues, and I would ask you please to vote for me. Thank you.
We'd like to open it up for some questions from our students. I'll get you here in a minute. I'm going to come to the back, okay?
Hello. So you guys talk a lot about like education and where things belong in the classroom. My question is, as you sit before us, we have to vote for you and be treated like adults. How would you incorporate being treated like adults in a high school environment? Because we are now considered young adults that you would care for our vote and care for what we have to say. So then how do I expect to be treated like an adult outside of school and then treated like a child in school? Do you have any thoughts on how that could be reformed? Thank you.
I think it's a great question. So really the sort of purview of the school committee is kind of 3 key areas: policy, budget, and hiring, firing of certain individuals, certain roles. I think to the extent it's policy related or a policy that needs to be implemented, that's kind of where the school committee would have some purview to address it. I think in general, it would be great just to get more forums going to hear from the students, because I think you guys actually have firsthand knowledge of some of the key challenges and problems, and I would love to hear your input.
Yeah, I'll echo what Megan said. Certainly we want to hear from you. And I think a lot of it is, from a student perspective, figuring out, how to advocate for yourself and be accountable and responsible to yourself. And if you're still not being treated the way you think you should be treated as an adult, then we have an issue with the policy and the way things are working. So, thank you.
I think it's very important for the school committee to have open lines of communication, not just with the administrators and not just with the teachers, but the parents and the students as well. And so we need to make sure the lines of communication are open, and if you feel that something is amiss, that we should be informed about that.
So I actually teach 12th grade students, and one of the things I do is I look for opportunities for our students to make connections with local businesses. So the students I have in my class actually go out and work in the local community, and they have an opportunity to do internships. So I like the idea of working with our local businesses and creating partnerships, because that gives you the opportunity to be independent and responsible and build upon some of those work readiness skills that are really important for your life for after graduation. So my students work on communication skills, collaboration, teamwork. Okay, time's up, but okay. So what I would like us to see is more opportunities for you guys to work on those skills and to have those responsibilities so that you can work hopefully in the local community and gain those employability skills for success after graduation.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. I look at all of you, I know you're students, but I look at all of you as young adults. And as I said, if it takes me the entire school year, I will meet with every one of you one-on-one to listen to your grievances, your concerns, or your praise. And I will work hard, and I promise you, I will be there to resolve any issue you may have. You can count on me. Thank you.
Like everyone else said, it's definitely more of a policy issue. You know, we should be treating you as young adults in the classroom and outside the classroom, especially if we're asking for your vote on April 3rd. And I would do whatever it takes to get policy or something set up so that you are treated like the young adults you are and should be.
Next question. So I have a question about the infrastructure, and when will this high school or like the surrounding schools be redone? Because they're in shambles. I'm not even sitting in a seat.
Okay. Well, as I said, and I hate to be redundant, but I am an expert in preventive maintenance and infrastructure. Now, please keep in mind, and without mentioning the town, there is a nearby town. Up until 2 years ago, they were working in a high school that was built in 1953, long before a lot of you guys were born. So the reason they were able to work in that high school up until a couple of years ago was because of the preventive maintenance program they had. I excel in preventive maintenance. It's one of my strong points among many. I guarantee you these schools and our school infrastructures will last far longer if I am on the school committee. Thank you.
So as a teacher and a taxpayer and somebody invested in the schools, something I would look into. I'd be researching that, and that's something I would look to if I got elected onto the committee.
I can tell you discussions about how we might go about renovating the high school and or replacing it are already part of the conversation. It has to be part of a long-range plan as to how we're going to finance it and how we're going to deal with things in the interim. So just know that it's something that's already being discussed. There just hasn't been an official plan put in place or an announcement just yet.
Yep, so what Glenn said is correct. This is already on the radar for the school committee, is looking at the high school and what to do, but there's a lot of you, and where would you go, you know, if we started to revise, you know, rehabilitate the different schools. But I want to say too, and give some credit to the school committee and the town, that we have actually done quite a bit of infrastructure improvements, in particular when you look at the technology and the technology improvements. Those are big capital improvements that have been made to try and bring your learning, you know, into the 21st century. So love lots of new beautiful schools, but it is a long-term initiative that needs to be worked on and invested in by the town, which I'm certainly an advocate for.
Yeah, I guess I would just say a new school is coming. Unfortunately, you guys won't see it. I don't know that the current middle schools will see it, but there will be change. It's costly, and I think Milford is exceptional in that we've been really fiscally responsible, and certainly as a taxpayer, your parents as taxpayers, I'm sure they're appreciative of that. But it takes time to plan and implement change, and so I don't know what that looks like today, but the experts are evaluating it, and we will have a plan for something.
Well, there's a teacher in this room who has a leaking roof in her classroom right now, and I think that needs to be addressed. And besides Woodland, I think every school needs to be fixed up, because a better school gives you more opportunities to get a quality education. And it's very expensive to build 5, 6 new schools, and it would take a few decades, I'd say, before we have 5 brand new schools in the entire school system.
want to take some other questions from students, but I'd like to follow up on Ariel's question. Ariel's our student who asked about treating students like adults as opposed to children. So I want to ask our candidates to maybe weigh in on one specific issue here. There's many high schools in Massachusetts where seniors are allowed to have open blocks on their schedule, and where seniors in good standing, good grades, good attendance, good conduct have open campus privileges. That's not something that we have here at Milford High School presently. Our students are scheduled for 7 blocks, right? No one has an open block on their schedule, and there are no open campus privileges. Could you speak a little bit? Maybe we can start with Mr. Miranda and work our way down. What are some of your thoughts on sort of that choice that some schools make to treat seniors as adults?
Okay.
Mr. Visconti, we're going to start with Tarek and come on down. Okay. Yeah, we'll start with Mr. Miranda, and then we'll come on down, okay?
I'll be back.
Well, I never had open campus, so you need to tell me what that is first.
No, so thanks for the clarifying question. So there are many high schools where open campus is a privilege for certain seniors, right? Where seniors are allowed to have open blocks in their schedule, where they do not have a scheduled class. And if they meet certain prerequisites, say like they have a minimum GPA, good attendance, good conduct, they're permitted to come and go off of campus when they have that open block. So say if the open block falls during the first period of the day, the student doesn't need to come in at the regular start time. They can come in during the second period of the day. Or let's say if we have a 6-period day, if their open block falls in the 6th period, they can leave early.
I think that's a great idea, and I would really push for that. If you're an exceptional student performing very well, you should be rewarded for that, and that's part of treating them as young adults. And I mean, I don't know how much they can do in the 50 minutes that they can leave class or leave the school and come back, but they could use their time well, I hope. If not, they can go grab a bite to eat somewhere, have a little better lunch, a little change it up.
I also personally like the idea of it. For me personally, the reins were held pretty tight in high school. Didn't get to do too much. My mom always said nothing good happens after midnight. I never got to find out. So when I went to college, there was a fair bit of independence that was granted upon me, and that was pretty new. And so I kind of like the idea maybe of testing that a little bit during high school. I need to better understand the implications. How do we have time to afford that? But if we do, I'd love to explore it.
So I think I had free periods. I didn't go to Milford High. We had free periods in my high school as well. We weren't allowed to leave campus, although we did occasionally. And so, but I think it's important to have that time and build that time into learning, because if you're being responsible students and you're actively participating in your class, you need that downtime to decompress and recenter and kind of refocus yourself. So I think building that in, we talk a lot about academics. It's hard to be successful academically if it's like a constant churn. You need some time to recenter and do other things, or whether it's free time or music or sports or other activities, I think is very important.
In the high school that I went to, we did have that privilege. We could go anywhere, either on campus or off. A lot of us used to go to the beach, which was cool. So I think it's definitely something that would add to your lives, the ability to get off of campus and decompress, like others have said. I think it's a great thing. I think, though, that I'd also like to see it for everybody, maybe not just for those who have the best grades.
So I would support looking into the open campus initiative and seeing, what students would have the opportunity to do during that free block. So maybe it's a personal project, maybe it's a senior project of some sort. Maybe that block is used to meet with guidance through the college application process, or the opportunity to meet with the career advisor and the guidance office to find out opportunities for job placements after graduation. I think if the free block is used in an appropriate way, I think it can be very useful.
Okay, all right. Okay, guys, listen up. I believe that all students should be awarded for their efforts. I would like it to be done in a way so the students that are not able to attain a free block are not discouraged and are encouraged to try harder and receive the free block maybe next time around. I would also like to add that every student that votes for me be given a free block. Thank you.
I just have a question for Mr. Visconti. I'm just asking, what makes you the most qualified candidate, in your opinion?
Let's hear some applause for those who think I'm the most qualified candidate. Okay? There. In addition to that, I have extensive experience in management and administration. I have prepared and administered numerous multi-million-dollar budgets for various organizations, financial and private. I am an expert, as I said, in preventive maintenance. I would be happy to speak to all of you after we're done here, and I could elaborate far more on my qualifications, my education, and my background. Thank you.
I'd like to give our other candidates an opportunity. If there's anything you'd like to share about your professional qualifications or your background that you think makes you well suited for this position, I want to give you a chance to do so now.
Hi. So I mentioned before, I'm a 17-year human resources professional. So it's not just I used to call it the angry HR lady. There is a lot of programs that I run and build for employees, and a lot of it's around career development, lifelong learning, performance, and accountability. Those programs are all directly correlated to you as students, because it's those kinds of programs that I know make you successful in the workplace. The #1 indicator of success is not just skills, but actually characteristics and behaviors. And that's why I keep talking about educating the whole student, because it's not just about learning math and language and those sorts of things, which is critical, but it's about all the other things that go into making you who you are. And I have direct responsibility for that in my career, and I'd like to on the school committee as well. Thank you.
So I started my career as a software developer, and now I'm an IT consultant, and we're starting to deploy more technology in the classroom, and this is an area I think I can help out. I've seen a lot of technology deployments go well, and I've seen a lot not go so well. And so this is an area I think that I can help out the administration, the school committee, and the administration to achieve their technology goals.
Hi, so like I mentioned before, I'm a teacher, so I'm going to use my experience as a teacher and in the classroom in my role on school committee. Specifically, I teach business classes, and I help our students get prepared for life after graduation. So I'm helping teach our students those employability and career skills, some of the skills that Sarah just mentioned as well. So the skills that you need to be successful after graduation, like teamwork, collaboration, communication. In addition, I do have a background in business. I started my career in accounting, so I'm hoping to use my skills there in the budgeting process.
When I was in high school, my favorite class was psychology. So when I went to college, I said, I'll just major in psychology. I don't really have a plan here. And then I was about to graduate and said, I don't actually know what I'm going to do with this degree. So I went back and got my MBA and my master's in accounting. I've spent the last almost 18 years in internal or external audit, which basically involves process improvements, assessment of process, compliance, and enterprise risk management. And basically what that means is you sit at a table and you review a company's processes and tell those people whether or not they're doing things in compliance with that. And really what that involves is a lot of tough discussions, and so I think those are really the skills that I'll bring to the table as a school committee member. I also believe I am a very hard worker, an active listener, and an effective collaborator, and on a team of 7, that's extremely important.
What I bring to the table that most of my colleagues don't would be I'm getting a degree in computer engineering, and I can help get the IT and everything in the school system running. That brings a different perspective. And I also represent a very big population in town, the very big diverse population that we have. And it requires a different perspective to look at things and tackle the issues that they might have while getting education, and I think I bring that to the table.
We're going to have time for one more question from our students. Could you just pass that down?
Relax. Shh. I'll wait. Hi. Okay, so as the senior class, we're leaving in like 40 or 30 days. Like, we're almost done with high school. So like, don't clap. What can you do for, what are you guys gonna do for us? Like, how does voting for you benefit us in any way? Could you explain it? Like, I'm still gonna vote, of course, but how, like, I don't need this. Yeah.
Think about the big picture, please. Yes, those of you that are leaving, it may not benefit you directly, other than a lot of you will soon become taxpayers in this town. And if you want to keep your taxes in check, and if you want your school system to improve for your future children, then we all know who you should vote for. All together now, who are we going to vote for? Thank you. Thank you very much.
So like Mike just said, hopefully you'll graduate and you'll go on to be competitive in this world and be a productive member of society. So we would like you to think about the students and the children in Milford and making our community better and stronger. And it does take you to participate in that process. So I respectfully ask for your vote and encourage you to go on April 3rd to the polls.
I assume that you'll still have friends in the school system in lower grades who will be affected by the decisions that we make afterwards. And hopefully you'll settle back in Milford if you're going away to college, settle back here to start your career and continue living here. So ultimately, you know, we will have an effect on, if not you directly, certainly your friends and your family going forward.
So I'll echo everyone's thoughts on that, but also community pride, you know, being able to walk away from here and say, I went to Milford High, and have that really mean something to you and to others. I think it's important that we be involved and engaged in our community and making it better for future generations, maybe if you come back, you know, your future generations, but also just to be proud of being participatory in your community, I think is really important.
Yeah, I definitely support what the candidates have said so far. I think also the people that will take office, you know, in April, they won't have a lot of opportunity to change things that will specifically impact you. But I will say, certainly when I left Milford High, I did not anticipate that I would be raising my family here. And so you don't know where you'll be in 5 or 10 or 20 years. And so hopefully you'll make an effort to elect the most qualified people and make a difference.
Yeah, honestly, will have minimal effect on you personally, but what we will affect would be your siblings, your family, and you have to look at the bigger picture, like Mike said. You have to look forward 10 years, because right now, like you said, you have like 40 days left, so there's elections not like until around 20 days away, so then you have 20 days left. So we're gonna have minimal impact on you, but we can impact the future generation of students in Milford. And like they said, if you come back to live in Milford, impact your children and try to keep your tax dollars as efficiently used as possible.
So, ladies and gentlemen, before we close this morning, I just want to reiterate something I said at the start and ask you to reflect on for a moment. All of the 8 candidates who've come here this morning, these are all hardworking professional people who chose to make time available this morning to be away from their commitments so they could come and speak to you. They're all running in competitive elections, which is a very challenging thing to do. And they're competing for jobs that are volunteer positions, right? None of these people who get elected are going to benefit from this financially, and they're all going to work extraordinarily hard. The number of hours that our selectmen and our school committee members put in over the course of a year is it's really astounding. And for that reason, I hope you will join me in giving a really hearty thank you to all of our candidates for their willingness to compete and their willingness to be here this morning.